Is Dr. Lynn with Wild and Precious Optimal Living. And thank you so much for joining me on the Zero Pressure Zone Radio. This is my second segment, and I'm super excited to be back on here. I'm on every Friday, every other Fridays at 2:30 p.m. And then the other Fridays, my husband, Dr. Sam, is on with Brain Talk. And he's also on Fridays Mountain Standard Time at 2:30 p.m. So I'm super excited to be able to do the second segment. And just a little bit about myself, for those of you who are new to listening to the show, I am a neurologically based chiropractor, a yoga teacher, and meditation facilitator, as well as empowerment coach. So what that ultimately means is my main bread and butter and focus and passion and everything that I do from inside out, from personal life to professionally, is really developing strategies to enhance the health and well-being of a person. So mindset, from all the way to neurological health as well too. My husband and I run a neurologically based chiropractic office. We're a family-based practice in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. And we like to have fun and describe each other. He's more the science geeky dude, as you can see when you join into his show, and he likes to talk about all things related to the nervous system. And for me, I'm more of the hippie. So I like to be able to talk about mindset. I love to talk about meditation and yoga and movement. And so that's a balance, I think, between the two of us. He's more just action and logical oriented, and I'm more of the creative, artsy. So I think we bring a really great balance to our practice. So with that said, in our office, we really focus on supporting people who are struggling with autoimmune conditions. And this is looking at a person from an inside-out approach, and we use the latest technology to really support a person in their health and well-being using functional neurology as well as gentle chiropractic. And so for the month of May, we are offering complimentary cognitive health assessments that you can take in the comfort of your own home, or we invite you to come into our office where we get to sit down with you, learn more about your health goals, and see if we would be a good match for you. So if you'd like to be able to take advantage of this complimentary session, feel free to give us a call at 720-667-3650. Again, it's 720-667-3650. So today, what I really want to be able to talk about is blind spots. And a little bit of blind spots. When we hear about blind spots, we immediately think, when we're on a road in traffic and you're driving and then you try to get into one lane, and all of a sudden, before you know it, there's a car honking at you, and it's like that car came out of nowhere. And so there's areas in where we're driving that we don't see, right? So similarly, from a neurological perspective, we also have blind spots that we're constantly actually dealing with every single day. And so a blind spot in our vision field is something where when light hits our photoreceptors in the back of our eye, we take those photoreceptors, take that information, and it sends it to the brain to process the information in order for us to be able to truly see what we're seeing in front of us, right? There's an area in our eye that the optic nerve connects to, and this optic nerve is what carries the information to the brain. And just at that area is where there are actually no photoreceptors. What that means is that's going to be your blind spot. So in reality, if we didn't have our brain to be able to process this blind spot, then everywhere you look, you would constantly see this black hole. However, our body is extremely complex, extremely intelligent, and our brain, in just milliseconds, is able to process the information. Information gets sent to the brain, it's able to interpret the colors, everything else, and then it helps to bring in whatever information that it knows from your previous experiences, what you learned, patterns that you see every single day, how you see the world. All of that gets projected to fill in that gap in your blind spot. So this is all happening with your visual field. Everywhere you look, there is actually a blind spot which you aren't really seeing at all because the brain is filling in that gap. And all of this, as I mentioned before, is actually affected by your experience from day one since you're born, to experiences that you go through, to the things that you learn, to the things that how you perceive the world, all of that creates a pattern and shapes what your brain perceives and shapes your internal world, shapes how physiologically your body functions. And this is so fascinating. And so with that said, knowing that there's a blind spot neurologically that is constantly there, we also want to take it into everyday life. What are some blind spots in your life right now? Meaning, when we're looking at the personal development aspect, what are some areas in life that you're not necessarily putting energy into or avoiding, or more true is you're not even conscious of? So when we are in the state of, when we're not, an example of this, when we're in the stage of not being able to be identifying with some of these blind spots, a good example is me doing these type of talks. When I get nervous, or if I'm leading a class and I'm in front of people and I haven't really taken the time to practice my talks, one of those things that I notice is, actually I'm not aware of, is I use the word and so a lot, or I use the word a lot. However, in the process of speaking, oftentimes I don't really realize that at all. And there are some other words that I use to fill in my sentences with. And my husband, Dr. Sam, he's like, that talk was really good, except you used a lot of and so's. And then I would say, no, I didn't. I don't think I did any of that. And he's like, no, listen to yourself. And so oftentimes if I listen to my recordings, it's when I'm listening to the recordings, I'm hearing my own voice. All of a sudden, I'm experiencing a different perspective of myself, of what I'm truly hearing, and I cringe. And of course, it's a realization of like, okay, well now that I know, I can do something different, right? I can practice more. I can be more mindful. There's a little bit of awareness, and every time I say and so, right now there's a little bit that Dr. Sam gets an extra quarter every time, so he can spend his collection of money anywhere he wants to. So that's something that I'm constantly developing now as I'm more aware of that. And another more mental emotional aspect of blind spots, you can start to think about is, what are some things that you're fearful of and you're truly fearful of, and what are habits that you tend to avoid when it's uncomfortable? And what are some possibilities that you may be missing because you're so fearful of taking action? So something more personal and being able to share is, Dr. Sam and I have ups and downs, just like any married couple. And there's times where we are struggling. What makes our relationship so much stronger is, I truly believe, because we're willing to be honest with each other and really being able to hold space for each other's mistakes and growth, and our willingness to be able to take responsibilities for ourselves. And one of those ways that we would truly do that is being able to hold space to recognize and not being very mindful about blame. So one instance that I can think of is, recently Dr. Sam and I had an argument about something, and for days I just couldn't let it go, and it would just come up again and again, and it would be in a different situation. I would keep bringing it up, and then it would just become a heated argument, and obviously we'd have to give each other space. And so ultimately, if I didn't take the time to really address this in terms of like, why am I blaming my husband, or why am I holding on to this, then the blame can continue, and that can continue down to through a downward spiral and hurting our relationship and creating a greater pest, and it can lead to far worse situations, right? And I think being able to take power and being able to acknowledge where we're at, or acknowledge what's really the underlying issue, or what are the underlying emotions that's driving my inability to let go of something, allows me to be able to start to address it, to actually take a different move. So it comes back down once again to the blind spot. When we are dealing with things that are blind spots in our lives, oftentimes it can actually be a sense of blame. So instead of taking responsibility for our own actions, it's blaming others. It's like, You know, it's like if you're constantly if you're constantly late driving to work, for instance, or if you're constantly late for a meeting and it's blaming technology or blaming traffic because it's their fault that you're late, then there's a lot of anger, right? And there's a lot of patterns that leads to it, to whatever it may be. But taking the responsibility of really looking at how is your time management? What is your priority right now? And how are you choosing to show up to work? In another sense, it's looking at our bodies when we stand in front of the mirror. And perhaps there's a sense of distaste, of disappointment. And knowing that, yeah, I can go to the gym and do something, but instead it's just like, well, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to eat well. I can't cook a meal for myself right now. There's, it's time. I'm blaming time. So when we start to do that, we start to avoid and really not seeing the possibilities that are there to really start to turn things around. And the reality is perhaps it's become a comfort zone for you, a comfort zone to be in suffering, a comfort zone to be in a state of downward spiral of your health or your relationship or whatever it is. Perhaps even financial means as well too, how you're saving, how you're taking responsibility of money. And so yes, blind spot can be applied in every aspect of our lives in terms of our marriage, our relationships, parental ways of how we're raising our kids, or our jobs, how we're managing money. And during this time of COVID, I think the gift in this right now is when there's a lot of stress outside, when we listen to the news and there's a lot of negativity or there's a lot of fear behind it, this is an opportunity. It gets reflected to you in terms of what are some things that you're truly uncomfortable with. It's reflecting the blind spots in your life and that you have an opportunity to take control of it. So I think that's really important. With that said, I want to be able to guide us through more of a practice today, a couple of breathing practices and the yoga nidra practice itself, to really give you some strategies to start to become aware of where you're at. So blind spots, as I mentioned before, sometimes we're not even aware of it. And part of it is because we're so used to living the life that we're used to. We don't really see any problems where we're at. However, it might not necessarily be the best place that we're at in life either. And so there's constant growth that is available. One of the best ways to be able to start, and one of the tools that I really love using, is a program called Somatic Respiratory Integration. And this was actually developed by a chiropractor named Dr. Donald Epstein with network cyanoanalysis. And there's actually 12 stages of healing with the somatic respiratory integration, or SRI for short. SRI is essentially breath exercise with awareness of the body and how your body responds. And as you're developing more awareness with your body and starting to become more aware that our bodies actually have this unequal tone in terms of how we're holding tension and how we're holding ourselves, and then it allows us to start to tune into some of the emotions that may come up, that can start to fuel change in ourselves consciously. And so mind and body is truly connected. Our bodies are like the words in a book, and how we physically are, how our posture is, how our health and quality of our bodies are, or how clear-minded, or how our lifestyles are, and our choices that we make. All of that stems back to our conscious awareness of our body, how we are able to navigate through the emotional struggles that we may have, and being able to consciously, start to take change and make changes. And so this is a really great tool. We're going to start with stage 1 today, and with SRI. And this first stage is about acknowledging, yeah, there is a blind spot, acknowledging that there is a gap somewhere in your life, acknowledging that there is disconnect. When you start to recognize that there's some sort of disconnect, or some sort of discomfort, then yes, we can start to see what is available to start to help us live differently. So this is the first start. It's just to hold space for that. With that said, we're going to start off with wherever you're at, sit in a comfortable position, and from there you want to make sure that, or you can actually lay on the ground as well too, whatever's comfortable for you. Obviously, if you're driving, it's not as available, but you can always practice this at home at a quiet time. So seated or laying on your back, and you're going to move your hands down 3 areas. So the first area is going to be right below your collarbones. And so right in the center, one hand on top of the other. And then the second area that I will guide you through is bringing awareness to the middle of your torso, so essentially where those lower ribs meet. And then the third region is going to be right below your belly button. So there's 3 regions I'm just going to have you bring awareness to. And then from there, you're going to bring in some breath patterns. And the beauty of this is just simply noticing that not every part of our body is the same. There are areas of our body that feels like there's extra tension. And when you start to bring awareness there, you're going to start to notice that it can be a manifestation or it can be related to a certain emotion. So let's play around with this. First, you can bring one hand on top of the other. Eyes are closed. And what I want you to be able to do is take breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And just notice in this first region, right below the collarbones, how that feels for you. Next, slide your hands down to the second region where your lower ribs meet. And from here, one hand on top of the other, you breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And just noticing the quality of this area here. Perhaps you may start to already notice that, hey, it's harder for me to breathe into this region, or, oh, I'm super connected with this area. I could stay here forever. Then you move to the third region that I described earlier, and this is right below the belly button. And once again, one hand on top of the other. You breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Few rounds here. And just allowing yourself to check in and notice the experience of this. Now, you may have to go through a few times, but just noticing which area of the 3 was easiest for you to connect to. If it was easy for you to breathe into that first region, the second region, or third. So that's good. Let's just say that that's like the rich area, that's the juicy area, okay? So that's like an area that feels good, that you can stay with all the time. That's your comfort zone. Now, then there has to be another area that may not have that great of experience. Perhaps it's more difficult for you to breathe into that area, or more difficult for you to focus on that area. So just notice that. Okay, so identify those 2 areas of ease and disconnect. Now, after you find those 2 areas of ease and disconnect, you want to stick to, let's start with the one region that was most connection for you. So for me, it tends to be right on region 1. So I'm just going to place my hands right over region 1 here, which is right below the collarbone. And for you, it could be region 3, which is below your belly button, or region 2, whatever it is for you. And what I want you to be able to do, this is most ease for you. Everybody has different strategies to focus with their body. And so first strategy could be just noticing the ease of breath. Second strategy could be noticing the movement as you're breathing into that area. Third strategy could be just noticing the energy flow to that area. So one of those 3 strategies, I want you to stay there for a few rounds of breath and just noticing as you close your eyes and you're breathing into that area of connection, of richness, what that feels like for you. Is it easier for you to connect to that space through breath, through the movement of your body, or by visualizing the flow of energy to that space? And it's not something that you have to analyze or be linear about. It's just what shows up. There's no right or wrong. Okay. Next, you become aware. Now I want you to take your hands down to the area of disconnect, of weakest area for you to focus on, most difficult part for you to focus on. And it's one of the three, right? So from here, take a few moments to simply breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then slide your hands back to the region of connection, region of growth, region of ease there. And then once again, take 3 rounds of breath here, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, and out. And again, noticing the experience of it. And then sliding your hands down to that second region, or whichever region was hardest for you to connect to. And you're simply breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, same thing again. And just drawing awareness there and acknowledging. So sometimes it helps for people to verbally affirm what's there. It may be manifesting as a certain sensation or emotion that is elicited from this place where there's extra tension or extra disconnection. And so an affirmation that it may look like is sometimes I feel helpless, or at this moment right now I feel so disconnected. And that is a really powerful awareness, because then you can start to take that as a tool to start to direct that energy and start to delve deeper in terms of where is this coming from. So bring your hands back to energy richness, wherever the region is. Take 3 breaths here. And then slide your hands down to the energy weakness and take 2 breaths here. And as you're doing that, perhaps saying the affirmation of what you're noticing is manifesting. What is the true feeling behind this? And then from there, just going on between the 2 regions, and just allowing yourself to notice that there are areas in our body that don't feel equal. And sometimes as you're doing this practice, it will start to shift. Your body starts to recognize, oh, this is what it feels like to feel ease and less tension. And this is what it feels like where there is trouble or struggle. And you're starting to acknowledge that struggle. And it's empowering because then you can start to take control of that. And so I think that that's, we don't know what light is until we know what darkness is. And during our deepest times of suffering, and perhaps there's a lot of people right now who are going through COVID and they're going through a lot of struggles internally. But that's also the time where they're getting the most inspiration, the most opportunities or realizations of direct choices that they can make to start to turn their life around in certain ways. And that's a really great start. We don't know pain we don't know bliss unless we've experienced pain. And that's the pendulum of life, right? And we get to experience all spectrums of it and welcome all spectrums of it, not necessarily constantly trying to run away from those struggles. And I think that that's also a very beautiful aspect of life itself, right? And so with that said, encourage you to do the SRI stage 1 practice every single day and see what may show up for you. And when you're practicing it on your own, allowing yourself to truly feel that experience. And I do this with our practice members, and I do this with myself, obviously. And oftentimes, this is really what also helps to move a person forward in their own physical healing as well too. So it's a really powerful practice in that aspect. With that said, I want to be able to end our session today with just a taste of the Yoga Nidra, which is basically the zero pressure zone practice of guiding you to just get into a more deeper relaxed state and starting to just bring more awareness to your body. And so we're going to begin by simply having you close your eyes. And once again, you can stay seated or you can actually continue to lay on your back, whatever's most comfortable for you. And Yoga Nidra is this powerful practice that allows you to drop from an alert, aware state down to a deep, relaxed state where your subconscious mind lives. And it helps to start to unwind patterns that's no longer serving you. So begin by just feeling your body relax. Feeling the crown of your head align over your heart space aligning over your solar plexus, and then over your bowl of your pelvis. And just allowing your whole body to relax. Your eyes are closed, and you're setting the intention right now to let your body drop deeper and deeper into relaxation. And as you're doing this, eyes are closed, you begin to listen to the sounds that are most obvious to you, not necessarily having to identify the source of the sound, but just simply being aware. And you move from that awareness of the obvious sounds to the most subtle sounds. And then in your mind's eye, start to visualize the four walls of the room that you're in, the surface of the floorboards or the chair or the bed, whatever that you're laying on or sitting on, and the ceiling above you. And as your eyes are closed, become aware of the space around you. Knowing that as you allow yourself to pause from whatever you're doing for the day, and to really allow yourself to connect, you're resetting the tone of your mind and in turn the tone of the physiology and function of your body. You're recommitting to your own health and well-being. Feel yourself breathe. In your mind's eye now, bring awareness to the region that was once that you had identified rich for you. Bring awareness to the movement of that place where it felt connected. Breathing in and out through the nose. And then shifting your awareness to the region that was hardest for you to connect to. And bring awareness there. And as you bring awareness there, you're also acknowledging that presence in your body. That our struggles, our pleasures, all make up who we are. There's not one better than the other. We are complete when we start to recognize the lights and darks of our life. As you're continually resting here, bring awareness now. And as I list the different parts of your body, bring awareness to those different parts of your body. Just known as your rotation of consciousness. Eyes are closed and simply following my voice. Bring your awareness to your head, your right arm, left arm, torso, hip, right leg, left leg, right foot, left foot. Bring awareness now back to the crown of your head, forehead, right eye, left eye, right temple, left temple, right ear, left ear, right cheek, left cheek, nose, upper lip, lower lip, chin, throat, right shoulder, left shoulder, right upper arm, left upper arm, right elbow, left elbow, right forearm, left forearm, right hand, left hand, right thumb, left thumb, right index, left index, right third finger, left third finger, right fourth finger, left fourth, right fifth, left fifth. Feel your head in your arms. Bring awareness now, and bring awareness to your right chest, left chest, right side of your waist, left waist. Bring awareness to your right hip, left hip, right upper thigh, left upper leg, right knee, left knee, right calf, left calf, right heel, left heel, right foot, left foot, right toes, left toes, right big toe, right, left big toe, right second toe, left second toe, right third, left third, right fourth, left fourth, right fifth, left fifth. Feel your whole body. Awareness of all structures that make up your whole being. Eyes are closed, and allowing yourself to just simply connect with your whole being, feeling your breath, focus on your breath now. As your eyes are closed, notice the movement of your body in its subtle ways as you're breathing in and out. Noticing the subtle movements of your chest and your navel as you're breathing in and out. The automatic functions of your body without your conscious awareness knows the intelligence how to help you thrive. Now as you bring awareness here, allowing yourself to count your breaths, counting down from 10 to 1, like this. 10, I am breathing in. 10, I am breathing out. 9, I am breathing in. 9, I am breathing out. And so on. Counting on your own mentally as you follow the movements of the breath. And then simply allowing yourself to drop the counting. Stay with your body. Eyes are closed. Allowing your senses to become external once again. Draw awareness to the sounds around you, awareness to perhaps the contents of your room as you mentally visualize yourself in your room. And just allow yourself to relax here for a few more moments on your own before you continue on with your day. And I'd like to be able to end the session with a quote by Gary Keller, who is a co-founder of Keller Williams Realty. And he writes, "If I've learned anything in life, it is that if you believe something is possible, you tend to focus on the constructive means necessary to make that a reality. I've also learned the opposite. If you don't think something is possible, then you will be blinded to the ways it would be done. It's like a self-imposed blind spot." So, with that said, thank you so much for joining me for the show today. And I wish everybody well. And I look forward to jumping on again in 2 weeks. In the meantime, be sure to check out my husband's amazing show called Brain Talk. It's on Fridays, same time at 2:30 Mountain Standard Time. And I know that he has a list of really amazing, great guest speakers coming on from Dr. Kyle Daigle, who is also a practitioner, practices functional neurology, and he's going to be able to share some of his experiences and the technology that he uses to help people restore brain health from ADD, ADHD, and the gamut. And so that's going to be a really interesting show, and look forward to being able to jumping on. Anyways, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all again.